Good morning, readers. Go ahead and fill out your reading learning intention sheet. Today's date is January 11th, so write in 1/11. Go ahead and write the book that you are reading. That should be your historical fiction book right here. And today as a reader, I am working on thinking across timelines. Write that in right now. Readers, today we are going to make sense of what's happening in our books. And we're going to do this by thinking about what's happening in history and what's happening with our characters. So, in our books, there's always a timeline going on for what's happening with the main character. So, you can always draw out the events and put them on a timeline. But, since we're reading historical fiction books, there's also a timeline that has to do with history, which is happening at the same time. Remember, since we're reading historical fiction books, the events happening with history are real events, and the events happening with our characters are fictional events. However, since our books were written in a certain time period, those events are happening at the same time, and it's important that we keep both in mind. So, I was thinking about my life, and I wrote a few events down that have happened in my life. So this is Mrs. Ware's timeline. I was born in 1981. In 1990, I moved with my family to Alabama, and I was in the 4th grade then. In 1999, I graduated from high school, and in 2003, I graduated from college. Now, while these things were going on, there were also other events happening in the world. So one of the events that was happening in the world was that in 1980, Ronald Reagan was elected president. That was near the time that I was born. And then, in 1992, Bill Clinton was elected president, and that was just right after I moved. And then in 2000, Bush became president. George Bush became president. So I'm going to put JB becomes president. And then in 2001, the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers took place. So readers, while all of these events were happening in the world, these events were happening in my life. Just as I created 2 timelines here, we're going to think about number this thing. So I have on the top Anne Marie's timeline. And then I have 1943, Anne Marie is stopped by the German soldier while running down Oster Brigade Street with her best friend Ellen. Her 5-year-old sister Kirsty is with them. So I only have one event here, but then I have some other spots because I know that there is more that will happen in the book that we will talk about. Then down here I have historical timeline. And so I know that there's something that probably happened prior to the events that I have. And I have 1942, Hitler recalls the German ambassador from Denmark. And 1943, Jewish people living in Denmark began to be rounded up for concentration camps. And then I know as we read, we will find more events that happened. Now, I have a few events that I want you to help me put into place. My first event is Papa telling Anne Marie a story about King Christian riding his horse through the city. Turn and talk to your partner about when this event happened and which timeline this event should go on. That's right, readers. This event should go on our top timeline. And this event happened before Anne Marie was stopped by the German soldiers. If you remember reading in our book, Anne Marie was thinking back to when she was younger and her father was telling her this story. Now, our second event. Anne Marie's older sister, Lise, is killed. I want you to turn and talk again with your partner. Which timeline does this go on, and when did this event occur? That's right, readers. This event occurred prior to Anne Marie hearing the story about King Christian. This may be a bit confusing because we learned about Lise being killed after we heard the story, or after Anne Marie was told the story about King Christian riding through the city. However, Lise was killed before Anne Marie was told the story about King Christian riding through the city. All right, readers, I have one last event. Denmark is invaded by Germany in 1940. Turn and talk with your partner about where this event should go. That's right, readers. This event would go prior to 1942 because it is 1940. And of course, Denmark is invaded by Germany prior to Germany removing Denmark's ambassador. Readers, today you will meet with your book club, create a timeline with your book club, and discuss notes from your packets. This timeline will be one that you will add to as you continue to read. Remember that you will create a timeline for the events in your book, and then a second timeline for what was going on in history at that time. You will also decide how far you will read. You meet again next Thursday. So remember, that means you need to read at least 3 chapters or 50 pages. And then finally, you will find your quiet reading spots. Let's make it a great reading day.